So hello and welcome to Let's Talk SEO, day 2 of the APAC event. Well, it went pretty great, as a matter of fact. Some things we did not know were revealed, some things we had known for a real long time were just reiterated. But it's worth going through what the panel discussed during day 2. So the panel, and also, interestingly, the panel included some people from Google, as it always does, but they were going over stuff that I think has changed slightly since the last Google update, which is why they have been talking about it during the APAC 2025 event. But I remember they talked about how Google finds the vendors' websites back in 2019, but now they've talked about it again. So again, this would be interesting to kick off with Cherry Prommawin, who opened and talked about how Google praises or phrases HTML websites, literally just walking us through the steps of how Google phrases these. And there are 5 steps that Google goes through. The first is HTML phrasing. So Google will find your page, it'll phrase the HTML, then it'll render the page, and the JavaScript will execute on the page. And then there's this deduplication, where if there are any duplicate elements, those are removed from the page. Then there's a feature extraction. So if there are any features like your videos and stuff, that's separated from the page. The signal. And then there's finally the signal extraction. What this means is that Google is taking your HTML page, it's turning it into a DOM like a web browser, like Google would do, like a lot like how a web browser like Google Chrome will do. It'll take your page, it'll turn it into a DOM, and then in terms of what Google does is that it tries to find the data elements. So it tries to extrapolate the menus from the real content, and then it indexes the real content. It doesn't really want to index the menus, the submenus, and all the other features that are not part of the content itself. What they didn't say was like what happens to all the links that are on the page. For instance, all the menu links, all the footer links. That's because they've talked about this before. Those links are used to follow other pages and find other pages on the website, or discover, as they like to call it. And so they use those links to discover other pages on the website. In addition, it also extracts the rel canonical from the head, the hreflang, and the meta tags, which are also executed separately. And based on that, the crawler will then look at the page to determine how this should be indexed, and then also how the website in itself should be crawled. Then Gary Altups stepped on stage, and people who watch my channel already know who Gary Altups is. He is a person who is a mouthpiece for Google, and whatever he says should be taken seriously. So as long as you can distinguish real information from information that's just put out there to create confusion, something which Gary Giles has done every now and then. So the first thing he talks about is the robust text and how to control crawlers with the robust text. He also talks about how to control uh, crawlers with meta robust tags. Again, this is something that you can go back to my technical SEO video and you can see how these work. He highlighted several lesser known directives. For instance, the none, which is equivalent to no index or no follow, combined with a single rule. There is a benefit to this. While functionally identical, using one directive instead of two may simply tag management. Now, the reason why I don't use none is because I work with a team, and many times when I have a team audit a website or go through the code of the site, they wouldn't know what none is. And so you always want to use code that other people can know what it is. I would instead use no index, no follow, because that's universal. Also, compared to none, if you're using WordPress and you have something like and if you have a plugin like Rack Method Scroll, they don't have like a none feature. So it's no index, no follow, and that's using the code. That's why it's so commonly used. The other one he talked about was no translate. If set Chrome will no longer offer to translate the page. The no translate is an interesting directive because there may be instances where you do not want Chrome to translate the page. Maybe it's a local site or a regional site, and you don't really want to encourage traffic from other parts of the world. Again, it's not a very commonly used tag, but I didn't know it existed. Now I know it does. No image index applies to video assets. Again, I don't see how and where this would be used. There could be some edge cases where this is used, but again, it's all this good to know. Then you've got the unavailable offer, despite being introduced by engineers who have since moved on. It still works. This could be useful for deprecating time-sensitive blog posts, such as limited time deals and promotions, so they don't exist in Google's AI feature and risk misleading users or harming brand perception. Now, this is probably the most important one and something I use judiciously. And the reason for that is that you can go wrong with this. I would suggest that if you have pages that have offers or deals or discounts that have been discontinued maybe past year or the year before that, just add the unavailable offer to the head of the page and you're pretty much done. You don't have to worry about it. But that's just putting a band-aid on an open wound. If you have pages from bidding back then that offers and deals, and it's not getting any traffic, that's just added blow to your website. Again, watch my technical SEO video because the best way to deal with this will be to just remove those pages. Um, and that's it. So you don't have to deal with the bloat. Gary Els also emphasized that it's important to know what's on the page as defined by the quality of raters guidelines. The most critical element is crawling and indexing. It might be text, images, videos, or rich features like calculators. He showed how shifting a topic into main content areas can boost rankings. In one example, moving references to Google 7 from the sidebar to the central main content led to measurable increase in visibility. Now, I've always said this, if you want to have something ranked very well, it shouldn't be on the sidebar. It shouldn't be, in the header necessarily. Like it shouldn't be positioned necessarily in the header. It shouldn't be in the footer. It shouldn't be towards the right of the page. It should be dead center of the page. Okay. Now your header is also dead center of the page, at least with most teams and most designs I work with. So if it's not centered within the page, there's a chance that Google thinks that this is not important. So I see this mistake made a lot, especially with e-commerce. They will have a list of products, and then they will have an even larger list of products to the left of the page, which I think are, it may work because you want to upsell, but Google doesn't really look at it that way. It might not even show up in the rendered HTML because Google thinks it's not important and that's something only for users. So you want to be careful with how you position your products within your page and also how you position your content within the page. Sometimes it could be a very simple shift from your content moving from the left to right position to the center position, just center justify your content, and it can make a difference. Now, I don't have the figures to suggest this, but this is what Gary Iles is saying. Again, if you've not tested this, like I've not tested this, I don't know for sure if this will work, but I know the best practices dictate that content you want to index and ranking should be at the center of the page. And so, take it for what it is. Tokenization for search. You can't dump raw HTML into a searchable index at scale. Google breaks it into tokens, individual words or phrases, and stores them in an index. The first HTML segmentation system dates back to Google's 2001 Tokyo engineering office, and the same tokenization method powers AI products since why reinvent the wheel. Now, this whole discussion of tokenization is really very old. We've known this for a very long time. The only difference being what they refer to as tokenization is actually vectorization, and that's a whole separate topic. But suffice to say that the words you add to your page, not all of those words are seen by Google. Instead, they are vectorized into figures, and those figures are then put into a database, and then that database is used with labels for data retrieval. That's the TLDR of it. If you want to go more into this, you watch my MUVA video I did a few weeks back. Go through it. It's nerdy, but it's what brings you if you're interested in vectorization and tokenization in Google search. Handling web duplication. So this is when Sherry Prommawin explained deduplication in 3 focus areas: clustering, using redirects, content similarity, and rel canonical to group duplicate pages. Content checks, checksums that ignore boilerplate and catch many soft error pages. Know that soft errors can bring down the entire cluster. Localization, when pages differ only by locale, for example, via geo redirects, or flying bridges them without penalty. All right, so what deduplication means is that they're trying to remove duplicate pages and duplicate content from a website's index. So usually if you go to a web page, you will see that there would, let's say, be a page for New York, there'll be a page for Corning, New York, there'll be a page for upstate New York, whatever. So every page will pretty much have the same content, but the only difference being that changes the city. And in the past, people will use that to kind of rank locally. Now that doesn't really work, and it's been a while since this had worked, because now Google, when it vectorizes your page, if the proximity of the vector index is very close in terms of like it's the near duplicate, Google knows that these are duplicate pages, and even though it may be part of the localization cluster, it's too similar to be unique, if that makes any sense. And so that will automatically drop off Google's index. And so you'll have one page that will probably rank in the index and the other page will not. The same goes for the rel canonical. If you rel canonical to the home page, then then your your child page will not be indexed. And so it's really important to set the rel canonicals correctly. Again, watch my technical SEO video. That is where I go into more detail about this. Um, if you're going to create clusters, I would highly recommend that you plan your clusters ahead of time. Make sure that they're not super duplicate of each other. They're not similar in terms of you have the same content, you're just changing the name of the city, but they are literally different about the city, about your service in that city, and how you work in that city and stuff like that, instead of just duplicating the same content, because for a while that has not worked. Yeah, boom. Then Prommawin talked about geo-targeting. So geo-targeting helps you identify which places or parts of the world this content is meant for. And so if geo-targeting is done correctly, not only will you rank very well in those locations, but it will help you im- get more sales or get more conversions. And so Parwan emphasized that you don't need to hide duplicate content across two country-specific sites. Airflying will handle those alternatives for you. So I see a lot of people kind of like not like they hide the translated page. If you have a translated page, the Airflying identifies the language of the page, and automatically you don't have to do anything else. Google sees the page and sees it as a localized version of that page. That's pretty much the long and short of it. So it is, if you serve duplicate content on multiple regional URLs without localization, you risk confusing both crawlers and users. So geo-target effectively ensure each version has unique localized content tailored to a specific audience. The primary geo-targeting signals Google uses are country level top level domains, CCTLDs. So the .aus, the .pks, the .us, all of that. Herflang annotations. So tags like the herflang tag, which goes into the head of the page. Then you've got server location, the IP address or the hosting location of the server can act as a geographic hit. I've not seen this really, but if your website is hosted locally and your audience is local, Google automatically picks that up. Additional local signals such as language and currency on the page, links for other regional websites as signals from your local business profile, all reinforce your target region. Now, interestingly, she says signals from your local business profile. So if you are a local business and you're not leveraging your local business profile, or if you have a local business profile and it's not ranking, it really will not contribute to your website. So, you might as well optimize the Google Business Profile. If in fact, I'd go so far as to say 50% of your optimization efforts should go into your local business profile and into your Google Business Profile, and 50% into your website, because they both support each other when it comes to organic ranking and traffic. Structured media and data. So Gary Al stepped on stage. He talked about structured media. He was saying a lot of stuff, but the long and short of it was, if you have too many elements on your page, too many schema elements on your page, for instance, then all of the schema elements will be neglected, or Google will choose one or two out of those schema elements. He didn't give us like an exact figure, like how many schema elements are enough. And if you go beyond that, you'll have a problem. my testing has showed that after the recent update, if you have more than 2 schema elements, you're kind of treading on thin ice. You might want to just have um, 2 maximum, and then maybe just 1, and just have the main one. So if it's an article, then just have the article schema with breadcrumbs. And then if you have a blog post, same goes for that. If you're selling products, it's a little more complex, but I would say just have the product schema and not have the product schema, the the FAQ schema, the breadcrumb schema, and the rating schema all at the same time, because Google will then choose not to render other parts of the schema. I just render maybe 1 or 2 of them, and then you have no control over what parts of the schema Google is choosing to render. There was a presentation by Gary Oz about EAT and the importance of EAT in LLMs and spam brain. Honestly, it wasn't really something insightful, so I didn't take any notes of it. But in a nutshell, what he was saying, that if you have EAT and if you build EAT, it will help you rank in LLMs as well, and it will help you. It will help you get through the spam filter, because the spam filter, like spam brain, will not see your content and your website as being spammy if you have good EAT. If you don't have good EAT, you'll probably be filtered by Google Spam Brain. And there was a presentation about deciding what gets indexed, or how Google decides what gets indexed. So there are a couple of measures that Google is looking at. It's looking at the no index directive. So a page shouldn't have the no index directive. If it wants to get indexed, it shouldn't have any expired content or time sensitive content. No soft 404 to duplicate pages, and pure spam and policy violations are obviously not gonna make it. So if you have any of these on your pages, remove them and they will get indexed, even though things are a little more complex than that. The next presentation was a little interesting, because I always believed that Google was trying to find a way to kill AI images and not index AI images. But as it turns out, they say that having AI images, Google doesn't really care about. This may be misinformation, because my testing I showed that if you have too many AI images on your page, Google just refuses to index that page. Having just one AI image really doesn't matter, but it also does not help the page. But if you have like 3 or 4 or 5 with a 1,000-word article on your page, or 1,000 words on your page, you will have a problem getting your pages indexed. Now, there might be outliers that don't have a problem. There might be instances where there aren't issues. But this is where I'm seeing issues. Like if I have too many AI images on my pages, I'm just having a problem getting those pages indexed. And so just removing those AI images from my pages got them indexed. So I think there's something there. But Google is saying, but during the session, Huang outlined that Google doesn't care whether your images are generated by AI or humans, as long as they accurately and effectively convey the information or tell the story you intend. As long as images are understandable, their AI origins are irrelevant. The primary goal is effective communication with your audience. Juan highlighted an example of an AI image used by the Google team. Have some first day of the conference on close inspection does have some visual errors, but as a prop, it does the job. It represent a timeline and was not the main content for the slide. So these errors do not matter. Then they announced the Google Trends API. Finally, Daniel Lisberg and Hadas Jacobi unveiled the new Google Trends API features. Again, the Google Trends API is something I've not tested yet. I'm working on a Python program to kind of test it. I haven't really gotten down doing it. I would for sure ask people that watch my channel, if they have the technical expertise, to take the Google Trends API for a spin. There's a lot of possibilities in terms of SEO with this, in terms of content generation with this, and it will be interesting to see what people come up with. So I hope you guys like the video, like, subscribe, stay tuned for day 3 of the conference, and I'll see you guys in the next video after ranking.